This is Gemara and Yoma Daf Ayin Gimel. All the learning Shvias Chos for Shleim of Himena B'Mega Chaim Sar Shalom Sivin Reis Sar Bas Kanan Zit Vasin Chai Shai Shalom B'Mindel. Eliyaz the person of Shavalei Shom Bas Nami B'Shavig Shachan Shmol Ben Tilo Divin Chaim Is Divin Chaim Bas Ina Livrach Bas Sivin Musa Din Enu Ben Shin Mindel Sviv B'Fegi Bird Mechil Sivin Asil Hu Rivka Bas Hashem Neftali Sivin Mechil Esther Beisoy Sha'ar Chayli Yisrael. We pick it up on the bottom of Ayin Beis and Mid Beis as we close in and we're about to finish this fabulous seventh parak as we conclude all the discussions of the different kilim, all the different vestments of the Kohen Gadol. Says the Gemara 4 lines from the bottom. Now we're going to learn about how they asked the Urim V'Tumim. We learned to the Mishnah, the Kohen Gadol, the Melech, the Bezdin, was allowed to ask the Urim V'Tumim. Explains the Gemara, the clothing that Kohen Gadol wore, the 8 priestly vestments of the Kohen Gadol, Mashuach Melchama Mishamish Behem. The Mashuach Melchama, who was the Mashuach Melchama? He was the right-hand man at some level. He was the Kohen Gadol that was appointed specifically to stir the heart and give the pep talk before any time Klal Yisrael went to battle. He had a special status. He was called Meshuach. He was anointed Melchama for battle, and he at some level was like a Kohen Gadol. So if he ever worked in the Beis Hamikdash, he as well wore the 8 garments like a Kohen Gadol. Shnemar, as the pasuk says, "Ubig de'akodesh asher la'aron," and the big de'kodesh was to Aaron yeh lebanav acharav shabi for his children after him. Lami sheba b'gdula acharav. So the Gemara explains the pasuk to mean the one who comes in greatness after him, referring to the Meshach Melchama, the Kohen Gadol, that's there to help when they go into battle. Masar Rav Ada bar Ava, asked Rav Ada bar Ava, and some said it was asked without a name. You would think that the son of the Meshach Melchama, the son of the Kohen Gadol, that was one that was in charge of going to battle, his son would take over in his place. Just like the son of a Kohen Gadol took over. What is this referred to? We know Kohen Gadol is really a job until death. It refers to an event that the Kohen Gadol became Tameh or disqualified for another reason. His son, if he's fitting, he takes over. So you would think the same thing is by Meshach Melchama. Talmud Mar says the Torah Shivas Yamim Yil B'Shem. For 7 days he should wear the Kohen Tachtav, the Kohen underneath him, Mibanav, from his children. Ashiyava El Oil Moed that comes to El Moed. This is of course referring to Aaron HaKohen. But from the pasuk we learn Misharai Lav El Moed. Only if you're Rai, if you're fitting, and therefore, and from there we learn that the Meshach Melchama will not. V'misa merci chazi, says the Gemara. If you're going to tell me that the Meshach Melchama gets to wear the 8 garments the entire year, whenever he wants to do the avodah like we just started off today, merci chazi. So says the Gemara, he's also chazi. He's also right to go into the Kodesh HaKodashim. So seemingly his son should take over for him. Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak Achi Kamar Kol she'ikar mishi chasei le'el ma'id. The Kohen whose ikar job is for what? To go into the ma'id. This excludes the Meshach Melchama. It's true at some level he's Rali, but he's not his Iker job. What is the main purpose of this Kohen Gadol? Is purely for battle, and therefore his child will not take over after him. He's not included in this pasuk. Meisvei asked the Gemara another kasha. We see in a Brisa Meshach Melchama Ina Meshamish Lei Ba'arbaki Kohen Hadyet. The Brisa explains he did not work with the 4 garments like the Kohen Hadyet, Lei B'Shmayna Ki Kohen Gadol, and he did not get to work with the 8 of the Kohen Gadol. So what do we see? We see clearly that the Meshach Melchama is not getting to wear the 8 garments. We started off today and we said Rav Dimi taught us that he got to wear the 8 garments whenever he wanted. Amar le Abaye, Elazar Mashvilei. Says Abaye, what? You're going to tell me that the Meshach Melchama, the Kohen that was there to give the pektuk for a battle, he's called like a Zar. He's called like a merely Yisrael? That can't be. Ela ki Kohen Gadol. It must be he's like a Kohen Gadol. Misham Eva. You know the reason why he doesn't wear the 8 garments? Because Eva, it's going to cause fights. If the Kohen Gadol sees someone else wearing his clothing, he's going to feel like he's coming to take over his job. And that's why he doesn't. But really, he could theoretically. He could Kohen Hadyet as well. He can't wear a Kohen Hadyet. You know why? You only go up and not down, and you can't put him down and wear the 4 garments. So there's a technical reason he's in limbo and he cannot wear either garment. Says Rava, 1 second. We find the Brisa, as we're about to quote in a moment, who doesn't hold to this whole reason of Eva fighting, that we're afraid that the Kohanim are going to be upset upset at each other if the Kohen Gadol sees him wearing his clothing. And yet we see that the Meshuach Milchama, this Kohen Gadol that used to go into battle, did not get to wear the garments. What are the fundamental and integral differences between a Kohen Gadol and a Kohen Yadid par? Kohen Mashiach was the par of the Kohen Mashiach, bar abal kol mitzvahs that the Kohen Gadol didn't have here. Bar Yoma Kippurim that we dealt with extensively, Vasir Zaifa, and the special karbanos, the Mincha Chavitim, as well. The Kohen Gadol lo pairei avloi paireim. The Kohen Gadol never was allowed to let his hair grow, and he had to get a haircut once a week. V'loi paireim, he didn't ever rip his clothing even when a relative died. Avol paireim melmati, he would rip it on the bottom of the clothing. V'adyet melmal, the Kohen had to rip it from the top. Ve'enim etam the krayvav, and a Kohen Gadol would not be become etame to any of his relatives. U'mitzvah sayal besula, and a Kohen Gadol u'mitzvah al besula to marry a woman that was never married, never had relations. U'muzar al almana, he's not allowed to marry a woman that was already married. U'machzer as a reitzeach, when he dies, the reitzeach leaves. U'mekarev einain, as well as he is Mekarith, Einain, he's allowed to serve, the Kohen Gadol can serve even when he's an Einain, which is when a relative of his dies, as well, he does not eat Karbanei stand, but he's allowed to serve in the Beis HaMikdash, as well as he did not get a portion of the Karbanes, but he does get a portion of the head, and he serves and he sacrifices the portion of the head, and he wears the 8 garments, Kalim, upater al tumas mikdash mikdashav, and he's pater if there's an issue of tumah. He doesn't bring a carbon if he went in bituma. And the entire avodah is only kosher with the Kohen Gadol. As well as, so now the Brisa continues. And all these halachas of the Kohen Gadol, applied as well to the Kohen who's meruba begadim, who gets additional clothing. He doesn't bring that carbon. And this is the ikar line. They all apply to the Kohen Meshuach Sha'avar Chot Mipar Yom Kippurim Vasir Seifa V'Kulan Ein Nagis V'Meshuach Melchama Chot Mechamishes Dvarim Amurim Beparsha. Aside for the 5 Iker Min Halachas, Loi Paireav Loi Paireim, he doesn't let his hair grow, he doesn't rip his clothing, V'Lo Metam Lei Krayv V'Metzav El Besula U'Mozer El Amayna. Those 5 halachas U'Machzer Zoreseach, as well as the murderer is going to leave with his death. Kedivrei Rabbi Yehuda, like Rav Yehuda taught us, they say they're not going to leave. But what do we see? We see that in this Brisa there's no such issue of Eva, because we see that the Meshuach Milchama will be allowed to wear the clothing. So yet the Gemara is bothered. That what's the reason why the Meshuach Milchama is not going to wear the 8 garments? We see that has nothing to do with Eva. Explains the Gemara, Kilis le Eva, when do we not hold of Eva? B'dikavosei. Only if you're treating the Meshuach Milchama equally. However, but if you're treating him lower, so, meaning the Kohen Gadol is not afraid of someone taking over him, but if you're treating a lower Kohen Gadol, then there will be Eva, and that is the reason for the integral difference. Just to point out such an important line that we almost flew through. What did the Gemara teach us? The Gemara taught us that all the avodah 3 lines down. Let's just highlight this for one moment. We mentioned many times the other avodas in Yom Kippur. Who does them? Is it all have to be done by the Kohen Gadol? The let's say the Tamar Shal Baiker, the setting up the Maracha. Does everything have to be done by the Kohen Gadol? So we mentioned many times the Machlekes Rishonim. But this is one of the big lines, as the Gemara here says. Sounds like everything is only going to be done by the Kohen Gadol. Explains the Gemara, Yosef, Rav Avua, v'Karmelo Lashmaitza, and he was saying over this teaching, he was saying over this din of Rav Dimi, that the Kohen Gadol that goes into battle, yes, could wear the 8 garments, v'Shed Rav Yechanan, he was saying it over the name of Rav Yechanan. Rav Ami turned away his head. Rav Ami showed his displeasure with that which he said. Rav Ami, Rav Asla Abayu, they both turned away their faces, showing that they didn't agree with the statement. Some explained Rav Chia Barav Amra, he was one that said over this din, again, this din that we've been discussing the whole day. say the din of the Kohen Gadol Meshuach Melchama, this Kohen Gadol that had a special and unique job, that he would stir their hearts, he would give them the pep talk before battle. We've been discussing, is he allowed to wear the 8 garments to Shemona Begadim? Rav Dimi said yes. We had questions back and forth. Says now Rav Chia bar Abba said this over Vadrina Rav Ami Rav Asi Lapayu. They turned away their faces. They did not agree. Maskal Rav Abba asked Rav Abba Bishlam Ravua Mishom Yekara Devei Kesar. Says the Gemara, I understand that if Rav Avua was the one that they turned away the phrase, I understand why they didn't speak up to Rav Avua. Why not? Because of the Caesar who Rav Avua was connected with. Says the Gemara, why did Rav Ami and Rav Asi just tell him? Rav Yechon didn't say this. What are they so afraid about? So says the Gemara, the second way we quoted the story can't be correct. It must be the first story. And that is the end of Rav Dimi, and that's how Rav Dimi learned that the Meshuach Melchama, yes, could wear the 8 garments. But as always, whenever we have a Rav Dimi, we always have a Ravin that comes to argue, comes along Ravin, 10 lines from the bottom of Ayin Gimel and Aleph, Ki asa Ravin Amar Nishal Itmar, says Rava, if the Kohen Meshuach Melchama wears the 8 garments, you know what that's referring to? That's referring to when they would come ask the Urim V'Tumim. Tani Nami Achi, as we learned in Abraisa Begadol Shegadol Meshamish Behem Meshuach Melchama Nishal Bahem. When was he allowed to wear them? Not like Rav Dimi said he can put them on whenever he wants, but rather says Ravin, if he had to go and ask the Urim V'Tumim, which we're about to discuss in a moment, asking the Urim V'Tumim if they could go to battle, will they be successful in battle? How was that done? That was done while wearing the 8 garments. Tana Rabbanan, let's get straight into there. Says the Gemara, Kitzan Shailin Hashayel. How did they ask the Urim V'Tumim? Hashayel Panav Klapi Anishal. They were face to face. Pashib Shat says Rashi. V'Anishal Panav Klapi Shchina. The Nishal was either face towards the Shechina or he looked down towards the Chayshim, which was the Shechina. Another shot is that the Shayel would face the back of the Nishal and the Kohen Gadol would face the Shechina. HaShayel Aimer Erdav Acharai. The Shayel would ask, could I go to battle? Well, should I pursue these troops? And what would the Kohen Gadol say? You'll be successful. Rav Yehuda, we don't need to say that. It says Rav Yehuda Koyamar Hashem. He did not say Koyamar Hashem, because we knew whatever he's saying is over from Hashem, that he would read the Urim V'Tumim like we're saying in one moment what exactly that means. Go up and you'll be successful. Ein Shayel and Bikol, they didn't ask loudly when they spoke to the Urim V'Tumim. Shenemar Vishal Loi. The pasuk says you should inquire of Loi Mahara B'Libai, but as well they wouldn't think it in their minds. In their heart, you have to ask Levnei Hashem. Ella Kederech Sh'Amra Chana B'Tfilasa, like Chana spoke Shenemar V'Chani Medaberes Aliba. She spoke their heart, meaning she spoke lowly. Ein Shayelim. Now more halachas about the Urim V'Tumim. Ein Shayelim Shtei Dvarim Kachad. You cannot ask 2 questions at one time to the Urim V'Tumim. Again, the Urim V'Tumim, let's just mention it now, means they would talk to the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol will be wearing the Chayshin. As we're going to see in one moment, different letters will light up, giving answers, showing whether they should go to battle, etc., etc. What was the Urim V'Tumim is a big machlekes. The most pashut shah was the Shem of Mefarish was written on a piece of cloth, and that was inserted inside the Chayshin, and that's what gave the Chayshin the power to work the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol, gave it the power that when they would ask you questions, it would light up and thereby give answers. But says the Gemara, you're not able to ask 2 different questions at one time. The Urim V'Tumim would only answer one. And they would ask about the first one. Shnemar, as we see in the pasuk, Hasgiruni Ba'ali Ki Ila B'Yadai Hariri Shaul. The David HaMelech asked, will the leaders of the Kila deliver me to his hand? Will Shaul go down? V'Yomer Hashem. And how did Hashem respond? Yered. Only answering the second question, which was the only one question, because he should have asked that one first. And you just told me only asked the first one. David Shaul answers the Gemara. We turn over to Amid Beis, concluding the parak. David Shaul Shalaik Seder. David asked incorrect. V'achzir like Seder, and the Urim V'Tumim asked, answered in the right order, which means answer the second one first, because that's what he should have asked first. V'kivan sheyada shashal, and since they know, and once he knew that he asked, Shashal Shalaik Seder, Chazav Shal Seder, David HaMelech asked again, Shenemar Askiruni Ba'ali Keila Oisi, there's Anshe Biachal V'Yomer Hashem Yiskiru, and Hashem said they will be delivered into your hands. V'imotrach, says the Gemara, you can't ask for two things at once. V'imotrach, but if it's a matzav of Sakanas Nefashos, Sadavar, Lishnayim Machzirin Lishnayim, then you let ask for two things at once. Remember the pasuk says, Vayishal David B'Hashem Leimar Erdav Acharei Agdod Hazeh Hasiguni. He asked two different questions. V'Yomer Hashem Lo Yirodov Kisik Tasik, and Hashem answered both of them Batil Tatil, and as well you're going to be saved. Even though sometimes when a Navi says something, it's not always answered. It never goes back unanswered. The Urim Tumim is always says what it does, and that's exactly what happens. The Mishpat Urim, it's a Mishpat. It always happens. Why is it called the Urim Tumim? Urim Shemirin Estevrayim, Tumim Shemashlimim Estevrayim. It lit up the words and it completed the words. But give us binyamin now leishlimu. And if you're going to tell me, but give us binyamin, what's the reason Urim Tumim did not fulfill their words? We see over there it did not happen. V'heim shaloi bichnu, says the Gemara, heim shaloi bichanu im lemanatzeach lenatzeach. You have to know how to ask. They didn't ask if they're going to win or not. Rather, they just asked if they could go to battle. Ubachrona shebichanu iskimu. And on the final time, they wanted to ask. The Urim Tumim agreed, and they said they could go to battle. Shenamar Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron oimi lefana b'yom haim leimar oisev oid latzis l'malchama, and bnei Binyamin you should go out to battle. Achayim echtal vayomer Hashem alu, and Hashem said you could go out to battle, but Hashem never said you're going to be successful. Kimachar and enu biyadcha, because tomorrow I will deliver it into your hands. Keita nas is, so says the Gemara, now how do we go? How exactly does the Urim Tumim answer a question? Says the Gemara, Rav Yochanan Mar Boltois. Rav Yochanan says the letters would protrude. Rish Lakish Amar Mitzarfois, the letters would join together. Now the Gemara is going to explain exactly how this works. Says the Gemara, there's no tzadi on the Chayshen. The Chayshen are all the Shvatim, but the Shvatim didn't have the letter tzadi. So how can it spell out words if you're missing a letter? Amar Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak, Avram Yitzchak Yaakov Kasiv Sham. Not only were the Shvatim on the Chayshen, also to the Avram Yitzchak Yaakov. Says the Gemara, v'lo Kasiv Tes, there's no letter Tes. Amar Rav Yaakov Shifte Yeshurim Kasiv Sham. It would say Shifte Yeshurim, and therefore all the different letters were spelled out on the Chayshin, and they would ask a question to the Kohen Gadol. The letters would either protrude, the letters would light up at some level, and they would combine, and the Kohen Gadol would know the answer to give the questioner via reading and understanding the Urim Tumim. So Meisvei, he says the Gemara, Kol Kayin Sheinu Medaber Ruach HaKodesh Shechina Shayir Lav Eina Shaylin Bai. Says the Gemara, any Kayin who does not have Ruach HaKodesh, Ushchina Shayir Lav, and any Kayin who does not have the Shechina upon him, Ein Shaylin Bai, did not ask the Chayshin any questions, and I asked the Urim Tumim. Sharei Shal Tzadok V'Alsalei of Yasar, because we find that Shaul Tzaddik asked Urim Tumim for David Hamelech, V'Alsalei, and it worked. If Yasar asked V'Loi Alsalei, it didn't work. So what do we see? Shenemar, as the pasuk says, V'Yalav Yasar at a time kola on the Gaimer. So what do we see? We see that the Urim Tumim, the Chayshin, wasn't foolproof. But says the Gemara, I don't understand. You, Rav Yochanan Reish Lakish, just explained that what happened, the letters popped out, the letters joined together, and we knew exactly what the answer of the Urim Tumim was. It says the Gemara, so why do you need Ruach HaKodesh? Why do you need to have the Shechina upon you? It's very simple. It's almost like a magic light-up board. Gishmak. Letter pops out, you know what it says. But why do we see over here that for Rav Yasser it didn't work? For Shaul it did work. For Tzaddik, it did work. Answers the Gemara, the obvious teretz. The Kohen would help the Urim Tumim. The Kohen would be able to understand it wasn't so simple. And now let's see one Rashi. Rashi, 7 lines to the end of the parak says, Kohen ba the Urim Tumim hilkach. Im Kohen kasher aya. V'ra'oi l'shechina l'talav. He's able to have the Shechina upon him. He says, Baltais. I'm mitzarfas al yadik. He would be able to understand and decipher what the Chayshin was trying to tell them. So it did have to do with the combination of these unique mystical and magical powers of the Chayshin, of the Urim Tumim, the Shem Hashem, together with the Shechina, together with the Ruach HaKodesh, together with the Tzidkus of the Kohen Gadol. We learned in the Mishnah that they were only asked the Urim Tumim for a king or an Avbezin, etc. But not immediately, where do we know this from? Amar Rav Avuah Damar Kratz, that's not terrible. Elazar HaKohen Ya'amad. Then in front of Elazar HaKohen he shall stand v'shaloi, and he should ask him. But Mishpat Urim, the Goimer, he should ask in the judgment of the Urim Tumim in front of Hashem. It says, etc. Who? What does it mean? Who should ask him? Who is that Melech? V'chol b'nei Yisrael, Oisa is that Meshuach, Melchama, v'chol Eida, Zeus and Edrin. These are the three types of cases that could ask the Urim Tumim, but not every random Joe Schmo is able to ask. We should return. We should do a chazara of this fabulous parak. And the truth is at some level is a siyum of the Masechta. As we're about to see, we're now going to go into the second half of Yoma, or we should call it the last fifth or somewhat, which Yoma is now going to deal with the practical Yom Kippur, what we do, the halacha. But the Avodah, the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Kohen Gadol, the coming home and making a party, the Marakayin, the wonderful process, the Sir LaZazel, Sir LaHashem, the sprinkling of the dam, the Chanifa, the Ketayres, the difficult Avodah Mikdash, that is all behind us. The preparations for Yom Kippur, that was all the first 72 blots. So Ahadjun Allah, we should do a Chazara, we should go through the Avodah and get clarity. And Amir Hashem, be ready for Yom Kippur. Hopefully we'll be able to witness the Avodah ourselves this year. Now we'll begin, we'll make a starting of the 8th parak, the parak that's going to deal with all the halachas, the practical dinim of Yom Kippur. Says the Mishnah Yom Kippurim, Yom Kippur is also ba'achila, eating, ubeshtia and drinking, uberechitza and anointing, ubesicha and rechitza washing, ubesicha and anointing, nilas a sandal, and wearing shoes, ubetash amita, and having relations between husband and wife. The Mishnah says that the king and a kala within 30 days of her wedding, Rashi explains, is allowed to wash their face, a king, due to the fact, as Rashi points out, that the king always has to be beautiful. We know a king got a haircut every single day. We mentioned the last part, Kohen Gadol gets it once a week, but the king every single day, as well as the kala is the din that she has to be beautiful to her husband, so she's allowed to wash her face within 30 days of the chasana. And a woman who gives birth, tinnalas at sandals out of her shoes, never have Eliezer, because it's hard for her to walk. Excuse me, not Gaza. Says the Mishnah, what is the quantity that you're chayav for eating Yom Kippur? A large date, the equivalent, including the pit. And someone who drinks a full cheekful, chayav, he is liable. Karis. Liquids and solids are not mitzarif, which is a very, very important halacha. Anytime if someone is sick, or someone is sick or not well, or it could be for a good person, maybe she's pregnant, whatever the reason is, and the doctor or the Rava says he has to eat, she has to drink. We know that the kinds of shiurim, we'll talk more about this, that within 8 minutes, 9 minutes, 10 minutes, you could drink a cheekful, you could eat an olive amount, but oichel shaisa ein misarif, they don't combine, and therefore basically usually what their people are advised is to bounce off each other, drink every 10 minutes, and in between the 10 minutes of drinking, eat something, maybe grapes or something like that, in between the two. Says the Gemara, let's just begin the Gemara. Asr, the Mishnah says that eating and drinking Yom Kippur is asr. What do you mean asr? Asr sounds like it's only a lav. It's not just a lav, it's karis. That's if you don't eat the shear. Even if you eat half of the shear, then you're over a lav. Says the Gemara, that's a big discussion. We learned Chatzi Shir. What is the status of a half of the required amount of that it's awesome. Answers the Gemara, says Reish Lakish, I hold Chatzi Shir is mutter min ha'Torah. It's true, biblically it's mutter to eat a half of a dateful, to drink half of a cheekful. But says Reish Lakish, I agree that it's asa d'Rabbanan, there's going to be a lav. Says the Gemara, if that's true, the chayav alei carbon shvuah should never be chayav in a carbon shvuah. Lama, why do we learn? And we're going to pick up from here with this last question. This is going to take us all the way into tomorrow's daf. Have a fabulous day.